بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو.
Who taught for some 35 years or so at the University of Ibadan, from where he retired. Today's topic has been brought about by his cumulative 17 years in London, pre and post retirement, and all of which, alhamdulillah, some of us were privileged to spend together with Professor. He made a lot of impact in the UK, and there was hardly any Muslim living in the UK during our period there who would not have known Professor, including Her Majesty the Queen, who personally decorated him with the title of the Order of the British Empire. And that award was awarded to him by the Queen for his services to interfaith relations in the UK. His impacts are many and varied, one of which was the creation of an umbrella organization for all Nigerian Muslim organizations in the UK, what is known as the Council of Nigerian Muslim Organizations, of which he was the first Amir, and the organization remains very much in place. He was also instrumental to the setting up of what is known as the Southern Muslim Forum, which is a conglomeration of faiths, different faiths, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, coming together under one umbrella to have interactions towards peaceful coexistence. But the introductions that I really want to make about Professor today are such that we will take inspirations from, and there are just 3 of them. The first of which is that, as you can see, he will be using PowerPoint to make his presentation. Right? Now, next time you meet a 79-year-old man who is computer proficient enough to be able to use PowerPoint, and I can tell you he prepares his own presentations as well from our time in the UK. Secondly, so you know that old habit of, as you pass through the university, let the university pass through you. So Professor did not just pass through London, London passed through him as well, for he learned to use the computer and to be able to do all this after having retired as a professor. Secondly, I mentioned that he is 79 years old. How did I know that? That was because on Facebook, some 2 weeks ago or so, on January 9th, the information to those of us who are his friends on Facebook, we got to know that he's 79 years old. It's the topic of today's title. We had actually written it as 17 years of Da'wah work in the UK, a returnee's account or a Da'i's account. And he said to me, wouldn't that sound like singing one's own praise? That you wouldn't want that topic to be like that. And that very much sums up Professor Noibi. So brothers and sisters, With all honor and privilege, I introduce to you our father, our Sheikh, Professor Dawood Olatokunbo Shitu Noibi, Obi. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Praise be to Almighty Allah for His mercies and favors bestowed on us as a community and as individuals, for to Him is due all praise. May Allah bless His noble messenger Muhammad, his household and his companions, and give them peace. The Amir, the Deputy Amir, other leaders, members of the leadership of the companion Lagos State branch, our brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, this is the second time I would be sharing my thoughts with you here, and gives me great pleasure to have that opportunity. But I also want to thank my brother, my friend, Najimuddin Jima, for inviting me to share these thoughts with you. As he did mention in his introduction of me, we were together in the United Kingdom. And he was one of my mentors. And we worked very, very closely in Dawah work. And I must say that I was highly, highly impressed by the fact that people like Mansour sitting over there, and Najmuddin and their likes, coming from Nigeria to Britain, to a place where parents used to entertain the fear that their Muslim children would lose Islam. When they got there, they actually renewed their faith and made it much, much better. And I was witness to that. And may the efforts that each and every one of you have been making, the efforts you have been making, may they bear fruits for you and your family here in this world and in the hereafter, where I often say, I wish to share my thoughts with you on this topic: challenges at home and abroad, experiences of a Muslim scholar in alien environments. I would be talking about being an alien in your own country. And indeed, an alien you are when you do not have the opportunity of living your life as a Muslim, as you are required to do. When you have challenges that often end up taking people away from their faith. I would also be talking about intellectual challenges that I faced both at home and abroad, as a student, as a lecturer, and as a consultant in the United Kingdom and other parts of continental Europe. I will be talking about my experience with dawah work in multi-faith communities, particularly in the diaspora. To start with, I challenged the very fact that what used to be the university college Ibadan, as part of the University of London, did not have a department of Arabic and Islamic studies. So I wrote an article which was published in the Daily Express in 1960, requesting for the establishment of what I called at that time Faculty of Arabic and Islamic Culture. And my argument was simply this, that the Arabic language was more relevant to most Nigerians than were German and French. I excluded English because it was the lingua franca, the official language in the country. But what about French and German, both of which were taught in the Department of English at the time? They were not in any way as relevant to Arabic. And that was my argument. That was in the article that was published in that particular newspaper. I further argued that with regard to what I described as the Islamic culture, access to Islamic knowledge, access to Islamic education at the university level would be very helpful in making Muslim youths practice their religion, understand their religion, and practice their religion better, not just for their own good, but also for the good of the whole country. Then I went further to argue that that must be so because Christianity as a religion and as an academic discipline was taught in the university college. And what was sauce for the goose must be sauce for the gander. At that time, little did I realize that I would one day become a member of that department that was yet to be established. And the lesson I learned from that, brothers and sisters, is that we should try and purify our niyyah so that it would keep us away from what the Arabs call ananiya, that is being selfish. If you are out to serve the cause of Almighty Allah, Allah will give you the reward both in this world and in the hereafter. Now, the next port of call was my teacher training college at Jebode, the Muslim teacher training college, where I studied for the grade 3 teacher's certificate in 1956 and 1957. I confronted my teacher on a number of occasions because of the fact that on a number of occasions he challenged my faith. On the first occasion, he came back from an Anglican synod which took place in Lagos, and it was a synod that Anglican Christians in the whole of West Africa participated in. Remember, that was before our independence. He was away for about 2 weeks. When he came back, the first thing he said to us, when he was supposed to be teaching us arithmetic, he said, At the synod, we discussed the spread of Islam, and we were worried that in spite of all our efforts, Islam kept spreading. And said, we decided to take steps towards curbing the spread of Islam. You can imagine how much that could be a confrontation and a challenge to young Muslims that were in a Muslim teacher training college. So I couldn't hold myself back. I got up, and I happened to be the imam, the student imam of the college. I got up and said, "Excuse me, sir, you are supposed to teach us arithmetic now and not the report of the synod." He accepted the challenge. I said, "Yes, Ben, yes. He was a stammerer. Me, people, that was the truth." Yet another experience, another challenge, another experience from this man was that he was supposed to teach us the biography of the Prophet Muhammad. And I knew that he was going to so I went and got myself prepared as much as I could at the time for a challenge. And the challenge did come. And many of the things he said were absolutely wrong. And he said many things about the Prophet ﷺ that were not true at all. And I got up and said, "I disagree with what you have said, sir. And I know the Orientalist sources from where you got your information. Because I had read some of the books of Maulana Muhammad Ali, who discussed the approach of the Orientalists to Islam." I said, "I disagreed with you." And he said, "Sit down and take what I teach you." And I said, "Sir, I will sit down and take what you teach me, but I do not agree with you at all, even for a moment." I sat down. Wallahi, I couldn't remember anything that he taught us throughout that lesson. Throughout the lesson, I was very, very much disturbed. On the third occasion, it was a Sunday morning. He was living on the same premises as we were. I was on my way to the bathroom. He saw me hanging my towel across my shoulder and carrying my bucket. He saw me and said, come, your man, come. And I went close to him. He said, "Come up the stairs, the staircase." I moved closer to him. And he said, "Why don't you become Christian? If you do, I will ensure that you are admitted to St. Andrew's College for your grade 2. And I will also ensure that you get a scholarship from the Anglican diocese to go and study in the United Kingdom." I was enraged. Wallahi tallahi. I was enraged because what came to my mind immediately was, and I said to him, "Excuse me, sir, you can see that I was on my way to the bathroom. Please allow me to go." He said, "Yes, sir. If you ever attempt to convert me to Christianity and we entered into dialogue, Wallahi, tallahi, I will convert you to Islam. Wallahi, tallahi, I didn't know where that courage came from. And I left. I had my bath in a great deal of sadness in that occasion. Now this man later tried to persecute me. He did it on a number of occasions. And the Muslim students in the college came together and said they would revolt. And I said, please don't revolt. Let your reaction be that whenever I came to you in the morning to wake you up for Salat al-Fajr, don't kick me. Some of them used to kick me. At the teacher training, he wanted me to go to Oyo for the teacher training for this grade 2. But I went, I think, to a better college later, without his assistance, without his knowledge. But before I go further, I should give him a credit. The credit was that just before we wrote our grade 3 teachers examination, he discovered that I did not have a particular certificate that the students were required to have. That was the standard 6 certificate at the time. Because I had skipped standard 6 and I had gone to a commercial college where I spent 2 years. So, and the commercial college was not government approved. So the testimonial that I was giving was not recognized. I showed this to the authorities of the Muslim Teacher Training College just about the time we were to write the examination. Because I could not afford to lose my 4 shillings 8 pence, I think it was at that time. And then to be told that you're not qualified. I showed the testimonial to the job manager, then like Mosu, Rahimahullah. He looked at it several times and he said, don't you have any other certificate? I said, I didn't. At that time, I was shaking. At last he said, write the exam. If you pass, we will admit you. But my housemaster did not know that. So just 3 or 4 months to our examination, he discovered that I didn't have the certificate. I didn't know how he got to know. When he spoke to me about it, I was shaking. Then he said, "Ma worry, I recognize that because as a Christian, he could have gotten in touch with some officials of the Department of Education to get me removed from the college. And until our results came, I was not Hokomio Balerara at all. And when I came to the college to find out what the results were, some 4 months later, and I said, "Good morning, sir." He hadn't seen me, he recognized my voice. He said, "Imam, congratulations." He was the first to congratulate me. And I give him the credit for that. I only wished that he accepted Islam before he died. I understand he is gone now. Now, at the college, at the government teacher training college, and our principal at that time was late S.A. Daudu. I went to him and told him that I wanted to offer 3 Islamic and Arabic subjects in the final grade 2 teachers examination. As a Muslim and historian himself, he was thrilled by my interest. I said I wanted to do the IRK, Arabic language and Islamic history. He said, well, Dawood, the schedule, Islamic religious knowledge and history. He was a historian, and I could understand why he wanted me to do history as well. Unfortunately, he wasn't in when we were to be registered for the exam, so I was allowed to do only the IRK. There was no teacher. It was not on the curriculum of the college. I had no teacher. I remember that Sheikh Hafiz Abu was the teacher of Islamic studies at the Muslim Teacher Training College we lived at the time. I don't know who wrote my examination questions. I remember that when we sat down for the examination, the Anglican students sat together, the Catholic students sat together, and I was alone among the Muslim students to be examined. But that reminded me of La ilaha illallah, because Allah is one. Now, having passed the examination, alhamdulillah, what I did served as an eye-opener for the students coming after me. I understand that all the students that were in the second year, that were in the first year when I wrote my exam, wrote Islamic studies in their final examination the following year. Now, that was at home, the challenges at home, or some of the challenges at home. There were challenges abroad. As a student, a postgraduate student at the American University in Cairo, I was confronted with quite a number of challenges, and I will mention just two of them. My professor of Islamic studies, a seasoned professor of Islamic studies, an Englishman, and of course a Christian, mentioned in the course of a lecture that the use of the word al-ma'ruf in what we call the Constitution of Medina was only a reference to the Arab standards of morality. And I thought that that was a big challenge. Why? Because I knew that al-ma'ruf is mentioned many times in the Quran, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encouraged Muslims to do ma'ruf. Would he be saying that we should be doing the ma'ruf of the Arab morality? Many aspects of which were actually condemned by Islam. So I raised objection, and it became an hiwar between me and my professor. So he then said, Dawood, see me in my office. I went and saw him. I said, do you still hold on to your view? I said, yes, sir. I said, okay, now go to the library and research through tafsir sources and find out what the meaning of ma'ruf is as expressed in the Quran. And as I was turning away, he said, look, don't forget to check al-munkar as well, because munkar is the opposite of ma'ruf. And that was my first research assignment at the American University in Cairo, just about less than 2 months after I started my research, my master's program. I went to the library and discovered that the opinions of the Mufassirun was exactly what I said to my teacher. And I discovered that there was one very important proof, namely that in Surah Al-Luqman, Surah 31, Ayah 17, Quran, Allah reports that Luqman, advising his son, used the two words al-ma'ruf and munkar. Luqman was not an Arab. He was an African, a black African sage. Therefore, my conclusion was that the word ma'ruf as used in the Quran refers to universal goodness. Every good thing as approved by Almighty Allah. I wrote my report and gave it to my professor, and that was the end of the discussion. Shortly afterwards, the university awarded me great graduate assistantship to support the professor, but he did not give me too much work to do. He allowed me to continue my research, so I'm grateful to him. However, I wished that he accepted Islam before he died. Yet another occasion, again with my professor, Professor Masters Jones. He was a very nice man, a very nice gentleman, and very, very, his approach was very, very intellectual. It was a seminar, postgraduate seminar, and my Japanese colleague was asked to give a paper on the policy of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the choice of those whom he asked to collect and disburse zakat. It was his policy that he would not appoint somebody that was Meccan to collect zakat from the Meccans. Neither would he appoint an Ansar in Medina to collect zakat from the Ansar. You remember he said he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen to collect zakat and teach them Islam. But in the case of the people of Najd in Central Arabia, he chose not only people from Central Arabia, he chose the chiefs, the mashayikh, the sheikhs of that area to collect zakat. So my friend said, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ deliberately injected وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا in the list of those who are entitled to zakat in order to encourage those chiefs to collect zakat, knowing fully well that they too would have their shares and benefit from the zakat. By their silence, everyone else in the class seemed to agree with him. And we were about 5 or 6 in the class. And I thought that was a big challenge, because what that meant was that he was saying that the Prophet ﷺ was either the author of the Quran or that he interfered with the revelation that came to him. So I asked my professor, I said, well, as the class, are we agreeing with his conclusion, which has this implication? And I explained. With our professor in this chair, are we all here agreeing to this particular proposition? The professor felt challenged. And immediately he responded in a very robust way, saying, no, the Prophet Muhammad did not, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did not interfere with the revelation that came to him from above. Those were the words he used. But then he tried to wriggle out